today I'd like to talk about something I feel like is very important sailing through these seas, and that is, what is knowledge to us? Um, I feel like there's a lot of ways that that question can go, and there's a lot of answers that we could get to from that. But one of the most important things I found with knowledge is the relationship between knowledge and the people that learn it. A great showcase of this is like ignorance is bliss. You would think that by getting more clarity into your life that you would be able to live a more fulfilled or happy life, since everything makes a lot more sense. So then why is one of the long-standing sayings ignorance is bliss? That comes with also that knowledge is a curse, another saying. And we chase knowledge. Clarity is a massive part of our lives. A lot of people go and they join Buddhism, they go into different religions, they start joining into massive fields of study. And it's human to chase knowledge. So then why do we have this relationship of knowing less is better and knowing more is worse? What I've learned for this would be ignorance is bliss, because the less you know, the less responsibility you have. In a way, how this would look is, if you don't know that another person is another person, then you would be able to maintain a life without having to really think about this other person's life. You wouldn't have to think about how your actions could affect them, how their feelings matter or anything. You would be completely isolated from this other person. But with the knowledge of this person is real, they have a life, they matter, I care about them, I don't want to hurt their feelings. Now there's a lot more to consider. There's a lot that can be stressful, a lot to think about. And then that can go into millions of other things that you want to think about. Another favorite of mine is, I think we've all been there when we first found out about the world exploding. That was, or not the world, the sun. When we found out the sun would explode, our earth would be destroyed, and I feel like a lot of us first learning that, we're like, what? Oh my gosh, I'm gonna die. Just like a feeling of existential dread of an impending doom. That's also for a lot of people knowing that they're gonna die. That, oh, I've got like 80, 30, 70 years, maybe only just like 30, 20, 10. It's having your own life spoiled for you, learning about all these things that are going to affect your life, be towards the end of your life, and then not being able to change them until you get to that point. When it's a show, you get spoiled, you can be like, oh, I don't have to watch it, or you can skip past the spoiler. But in life, when you learn about something that is predetermined, like death or the flow of time, you learn about it, and you can't go through life without experiencing it. You're gonna meet that spoiler. But that's only, I would say, a brief part of knowledge. Another big thing with knowledge would be the loss of self. What I love looking at when it comes to knowledge is something called sonder. Sonder is a feeling, and it's a feeling of acknowledgement of everybody else's individuality and life. And so the reason why I like sonder, especially in this discussion of knowledge, is because sonder calls into question something that normally we don't call into question, that being our self. See, born into our own bodies with our own understanding of the world, everything is built through our own experience. We learn the theories that other people have, but those theories aren't the same as our practical experience. Meaning, we naturally have what is known as a egocentric bias, as well as a first person, and how do I put it? We narrate our own lives. That's a great way to look at it. You are both the protagonist and the narrator of your own life. And so everything else, while it does matter, and you can most definitely give it importance, to a degree is simply the rest of the cast, where you're the protagonist inside of this theatrical show that could be written by Shakespeare or any other. moving forward from there is Sonder is the acknowledgement that everybody's in that position, where everybody gets to be the protagonist. And while it's kind of simple to say it, or to just be like, oh, everybody's the protagonist, it's another thing to fully process that. To process that not only are you still important, but that everybody holds that same importance. It's to acknowledge that there is no drop in value, just that everything is at an equivalent. No one is higher or lower than the other inside of the objectivity of the world. If we wanted to look at this another way, one of my favorite sayings for this was that each individual is like a droplet of water falling into the ocean. Sonder is an awakening that you are that droplet and that you fall into that ocean. Knowledge requires that you know where you stand, because if you don't, then most of your knowledge might not be knowledge, but simply a self-belief, which is the biggest trap, if you ask me, when it comes to learning new things, is differentiating between what is something that you want to believe and what is true. Because oftentimes, when we think about, I would say, a lot of the, we could call it complicated, I would say general, it could be things like what's good or bad, right? It's very, murder is bad, theft is bad, but then if you get into what makes it bad, what are the circumstances, are there nuances to it, what did they have to steal because of this, what could have made them steal, is it bad that the person's stealing if the system of, you could say, the government, the mayor, the town, made it that way, they were forced into a position, in which case that was the only thing that they could do to survive. It gets pretty heavy, and when it gets into things like that, normally we just go off of our experience or what we feel in our chests. So some people would go that even if you're put in that position, you should never resort to that. Others would say it's at the fault of the mayor, the government, whichever, for forcing you to be in a position, in which case that could ever appear to be the best response possible. And